Thank you. I won't read the whole of my paper, but I wondered if we could show, I had one or two slides. What I was going to talk about and what my paper is about the massive expansion in the cultural sector in the Middle East, and particularly in the region of the Persian Gulf. I am the Deputy Director of Cultural Diplomacy Projects at Qatar Museums Authority, and the authority is part of the Qatar government, and it was founded, thank you, it was founded in 2005, and the main remit of Qatar Museums Authority is to build museums and to, is this connected?
Yeah.
And they currently have 12 different museum projects on the go. The most well-known is this beautiful museum, the Museum of Islamic Art, which was opened in the year 2008, designed by the famous Chinese-American architect I.M. Pei. And if you know the pyramid in the Louvre Museum, it's the same architect. And this is in Doha, in the capital of Qatar, a small country of just under 2 million people. And you can see that it's set beautifully over the waters of the Gulf, and on the left of the picture is the main central business district of Qatar. I'm also going to discuss briefly, by way of comparison really, two other areas where there are huge construction of museums going on. One is in Abu Dhabi, and the other is in Saudi Arabia. So first of all, the Qatar Museums Authority, as I mentioned, is founded in 2008, and they have the responsibility as a government department not only for creating new museums, but really for expanding the cultural sector. And they also have oversight of the archaeological and natural sites in the country. And in July this year, UNESCO designated Al Zubara, which is an archaeological site, an old fishing village to the northern part of Qatar, that was designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And currently also under construction in Qatar is the Qatar National Museum. I don't have a picture of that, but that's due to open in 2016. Now, the QMA programs, one point I wanted to make is that by their very nature, all of these big museum projects, both in Qatar, in Abu Dhabi, and indeed even in Saudi Arabia, they are by their very nature international. So in the Qatar Museums Authority, we have it's a body that has about 3,000 employees. Around about 2/3 of those are from all parts of the world. And there has been a huge influx of expatriate museum professionals in all different fields, from curators through to museum staff and even through to the catering staff. The other point is that the collections themselves are by their nature international, and the Museum of Islamic Art has gathered together beautiful examples of art from across the Islamic world, from Spain and Morocco right the way through to China. And these have been bought in the auction houses of the West and the East. And I'm following on from the previous paper. I think it's interesting actually to look at how during the Enlightenment, right the way up to the 40s and 50s, there was a sort of flow of objects, if you like, from as a product of the Enlightenment, a flow of objects from the Middle East and the Eastern world into the museums of the West. And you can see those here today. But what seems to be happening now is that there's a flow in the opposite direction of these museum objects, and great collections are now being gathered together in the Middle East. Now, the other point I wanted to make really about these museums is that the art world itself has become globalized along with the globalization of capital. Artists themselves operate now on an international stage. So there's no doubt that the projects in Qatar and in Abu Dhabi and in Saudi Arabia are part of an impetus of the governments of those countries towards using culture for cultural diplomacy and also social development. But they are, in a sense, intrinsically internationalist in the first place. Now, at the Qatar Museums Authority, we actually have an Office of Strategic Cultural Relations, and I'm responsible for that, and I'm responsible for the oversight of programming. Last year, in 2012, we programmed Qatar Japan Year of Culture 2012. This year has been Qatar UK 2013, and as part of Qatar UK, we programmed something like 100 different events. Some of these have been very large exhibitions taking place in Qatar and in the UK, and others have been small projects, cultural exchanges, sports, education. So we've really covered a whole range of art forms and a whole range of activities as part of these projects. Incidentally, the two logos that you can see for Japan and Qatar actually read backwards as well. So if you look at the Qatar UK, if you read it in Arabic, it says Qatar, and if you read it in English, it says UK. We tried to do that with Brazil, but it proved pretty difficult. So we decided to go ahead and just have the Q and the B. That's what's going to happen next year. The way that we select these countries is they are actually selected unilaterally by Qatar and by our chairperson, Sheikh Al Mayasa bint Hamad Al Khalifa Al Thani. She's a member of the royal family, and she's also a great collector of art. And I think it's fair to say that she really is operating like a kind of modern Medici. The resources that she's putting into art and the resources that are being put in by the government into cultural projects in Qatar really are extraordinary at the moment. One of the things is I'm really looking forward to, having lived here over 25 years ago, I spent a year in Germany, is Qatar Germany 2017. And whilst I've been here for this conference, I've also had meetings at the Auswärtiges Amt, the German Foreign Office. And there's a great deal of enthusiasm about running the cultural year in 2017. This gives you an idea here of the partners and sponsors that we have in any project. We don't necessarily operate in a way we don't operate all of the projects. Sometimes we act as a catalyst. Sometimes we will strengthen pre-existing partnerships. Some of the projects might have already happened. So, for example, the Berliner Philharmonie might be visiting Qatar to play in 2017. But what we would do during that particular year is we would put it under the umbrella of Qatar Germany 2017. So I guess the question is to what extent is this cultural diplomacy, and to what extent is it, if you like, domestic policy? Well, Qatar has a national vision, the Qatar National Vision 2030, and it's a strategic plan that states that the government and people of Qatar aim to build a vibrant and prosperous country in which there's a balance between human, social, economic and environmental development. The vision of Qatar defines the long-term outcomes for the country in a strategy that places a great deal of importance on Qatar, on culture and international cooperation. And the project that I'm involved in is very much part of that. I'll come on to that. I'll just give you three of the strategic objectives that have come from this national vision. One is the development of a spirit of tolerance, constructive dialogue, and openness towards others at national and international levels. The second objective is sponsoring and supporting dialogue among civilizations, promoting coexistence between different cultures and religions. And one of the characteristics of each one of these cultural diplomacy projects, whether it's Qatar Brazil, Qatar UK, Qatar Germany, is that we present the partner country's culture in Qatar. So throughout this year, we've had visits from, for example, the BBC Symphony Orchestra, we've had the Shakespeare Theatre, we've had all kinds of events in Qatar. And at the same time, simultaneously, we've been showcasing Qatari and wider Gulf culture in the partner country, in this case, this year in the UK. So it's very much about this exchange, but it's not just a cultural diplomatic tool, it's also very much about development for its own sake, social and educational development in each one of the countries. The third objective that I've highlighted in my paper is developing a knowledge-based economy characterized by innovation, entrepreneurship, and excellence in education. So the point about these cultural diplomacy projects run by QMA is that one of the main outcomes is perhaps something that you wouldn't call specifically about being an instrument of the foreign policy of Qatar. It's very much about domestic development within Qatar. It's about building capacity specifically in the museum sector and building a new profession. But it's also about general education. So all of the exhibitions we presented this year, for example, an exhibition by Damien Hirst, the British contemporary artist in Qatar. It's been visited by about 30,000 people so far. Not a lot actually by standards of cities like Berlin or London, but in Qatar, where it's a much smaller population, that's a large number of people for a 2-month exhibition run. And around about 40% of those have been school children, both Qatari and from international schools. I just wanted to briefly touch on 2 other projects that are happening in the region. In Abu Dhabi, there's the Sadiyat Island. So I've got to finish here. So, well, there's a huge projects going on in Abu Dhabi, the cultural development there. And also in Saudi Arabia, there is the King Abdulaziz Center for World Culture, which is due to open in 2016. Now, if I can just, for 2 more minutes, just say that one of the features that all of these projects have is distinctive architecture. They're very much about building a tourist profile for the place, as well as about cultural diplomacy and domestic development. And also, one of the phrases you hear everywhere in the Middle East, one of the characteristics of these projects is they've all depended on oil and gas money to build them. I personally think better to be spending it on that than perhaps on other things like weapons. But the phrase you hear everywhere in the Middle East is transformation to a knowledge economy. So this idea that these countries are essentially diversifying their own economies and preparing for the future through culture, and they are also opening up to the world through culture in these cultural diplomacy projects. Thank you.